Good evening, San Joaquin County. I'm your host, Raj Singh, on the San Joaquin Weekly podcast. And as you guys know, we try to come up with different topics to bring the information, share the information with you guys through these programs. And today, I had such an honor to be hosting this show with Christina Gilbert, who's the director of San Joaquin County's Children Alliance. And she's doing a wonderful and lot of hard work to bring different programs for prevention and to advocate and to empower our youth. So let's all hear from Christina Gilbert what this San Joaquin Children Alliance organization is. And before we jump into that, I just want her to tell our audience how long she's been working in this organization, how she ended up being here, what's our background, as she's doing such a tremendous, wonderful job in our county. And Christina, thank you and welcome to our show. The floor is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you guys so much for having me on. I've had the opportunity to work with you in the past on some of the ballot initiatives we did, and I just always appreciate how you use this platform for so much good in the community, and just a great job to you as well. I, as you said, am Christina Gilbert. I am a lifetime Stocktonian. My husband and I have a small business here in Stockton. We have 4 boys going to schools around Stockton, and I became the director of the San Joaquin Children's Alliance in 2015, and it is a grant-run advocacy organization that we engage the County Board of Supervisors around policies and funding to move those resources upstream into preventative measures instead of waiting until downstream when problems and challenges emerge for children and families. So we were, as I said before, the group that helped spearhead the effort around Measure B and Measure X, which were ultimately a goal to create a children's fund that would help us to have local revenue to make decisions on where we as a community think we should spend that money to help stabilize families and prevent long-term problems.
Oh, great. So as I in the beginning said, it's just a lot of work that's being put up with her and her organization towards our youth. And she already briefly mentioned over what this organization is all about. And it's not just they started it, they've been working on different things. Even last year, we had the honor to host their topic and a Measure X and the other one you said. So that's great. And thank you. And just overall, like right now, if we're talking about the Children's Alliance, San Joaquin Children's Alliance, what are your goals? What are you working on currently? That's in the pipeline.
Absolutely. So obviously, as COVID hit, it was most appropriate for our work to pause, as everyone really needed to meet the most basic need in front of them. And as COVID relief funding started coming into the county, we set some short-term goals to help ensure that we were pulling community partners together to examine the impacts and then to bring that data to the board in the form of proposals of where they should be spending that COVID relief funding to mitigate the impacts to children and youth across the county. So right now, last year in January, the Alliance went to the board and made some requests around some of that initial funding. And then we asked them to reconvene. They have a task force. They have a task force called the Children and Youth Task Force. And they reconvened it last September. And we've convened partners from all over the county department heads. The supervisors have 2 supervisors that attend, school districts, and community-based organizations from all over, discussing where are the biggest impacts and where could this funding be put to make long-term impacts for our kids.
Great. That's really, really wonderful. And when we're talking about the grants and funds that's coming through county and working with the county supervisors, how much money has the county recently received your organization up to till this date?
So the county, through CARES Act funds and American Rescue funds, has received at least $151 million to date and is expecting $74 million more in May. And the broadest definition of what is that it has to be put toward COVID impacts. It can't be spent on just anything. There are some allocations for infrastructure and some different areas like that, but primarily it's supposed to mitigate the impacts of COVID in your community.
Great. That's a huge number that you just mentioned. And I think maybe some people know about it through your circle, but I don't think so. Majority of the population in our county, they would know about all this. So how exactly? So if you talk about $74 million funding, right? And right. So how somebody, like, for example, when you're saying that you're working towards the youth, can you kind of elaborate or give any example that how is it helping, or how somebody can get that sort of a help through your organization?
So I don't work directly with the public. I'm purely advocacy. My goal is I convene all of the players who do work with the public. And so depending on what help that someone might be looking for, my job is to make sure that we're collaborating as closely as possible, and then also that we're coming to the Board of Supervisors collectively to organize and petition for policies or funding. So I'm not an entity that people would come to for help. I'm the entity who works with everyone they go to for help.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what has been spent in terms of dollar amount, like, on this far?
Yeah, the county has there's been a number of things that the county has done with the funding that have been very impactful. There's been at least $20 million has been spent toward small business grant relief fund, which is great. About 13.7 million has been spent on family stabilization. So for families who need assistance for loss of economics in their home. Then there's lots of money, of course, that have been spent on public health related items, all very important, for vaccine awareness, those different kinds of things. That's a lot of what that's easy to articulate. $5 million was spent to First Five to expand their ability to work with children 0 to 5. Also very, very important. Some of our most vulnerable children really fall between 0 and 5 through all of this. At least teachers might still have seen kids through the screen or now that they're back in school, but little kids are primarily at home, and allowing First Five and expanded reach really allowed for more people to be knocking on doors or delivering supplies or checking on kids, doing home visitation, even from a distance. And so great things happening there as well.
Oh, great. That's incredible. And this just kind of getting along more into, you mentioned about the Children and Youth Task Force.
Yes.
That was established. And what are the funding proposals on that your currently organization is working on?
Absolutely. So it's funneled down into three main areas, and the conversation has really expanded over a course of a year, really taking time to step back and work with partners and analyze where we see the needs, and also where it makes sense to invest one-time funds. This is one-time funding coming from the state and federal government. So we can't be doing massive expansions on programs because the funding will obviously not exist in either 12 to 24 months, depending on the cycle. So the areas that we have as a group have landed on is to expand investment to 211. Do you know what 211 is?
No, not at all.
Oh, well, we need to do a whole show just on 211. So 211 is where you call when you are needing to find resources. Like when you call 911 for an emergency, you would call 211 if you needed housing assistance, if you weren't sure where a food bank was, they also do what they call Help Me Grow. They do health screenings for children real quickly over the phone. They help connect people to a myriad of resources. And through the pandemic, 211 actually took on a couple of different roles to help our constituents. One was they were partnered with the housing authority on helping with some housing issues that were going on in the community. And then they helped 65,000 seniors sign up for their vaccinations because they didn't have the internet or they didn't know how to do it. These are 65,000 San Joaquin County residents that they served in a very short period of time. So 211 is really a one-stop shop to help connect the community to what you need, but you don't know where to get it. And we're very much aware of the fact that not enough people know about 211, and everyone should, because it ensures that all the money we're investing into the community is amplified, because everyone who needs to know where to go knows they can start with 211. So that's one of the first proposals.
Okay, great. So I just want to take a little bit time here just to emphasize on the 211 first. I learned today, I mean, we all have computer and Google kind of search and kind of directly go to that place or that resource. But a lot of our folks that are senior population, they are not very tech savvy. They rely on, they know how to use the phone. They can dial a number, call, talk to somebody to get that sort of a resource or help. So 211 is your next handy number along with your 911. So because if you might not need it, but in your community, there could be a family, friend, or somebody you come across that they're looking for something, but it's possible, majority of the time it's possible you're not going to have answer for everything. Yeah. So write that number, save that number down, and hand it over to someone. As Christina said, there's so much there. It's just a one-stop shop which will navigate you. Hey, what are you looking for? This is the department, this is the number, this is the contact information, or this is the address, and you can help somebody. And yes. I believe if we are living in the same community and trying to help, so there's multiple ways we can do. So this is one of the way that everybody should do their part and help other people in the community for a better tomorrow. So yeah, that's wonderful. And let's just go back to Christina again about her plan. So next to 211, what else are we working on?
Absolutely. So obviously mental health is at the top of everyone's list. It was something that was a major source of conversation for the task force before COVID. We know that it's at a crisis level now. And so there's been a few specific areas around expanding suicide prevention. Seeing those, we have suicide prevention programs that exist at many of the high schools, but there's been a call and a need that's been expressed in the community to see that pressed down through junior high schools, maybe even businesses or houses of worship. And so right now there's really an analysis of how that could be expanded and who the community partners are that are already doing it, and identifying who else might be interested in receiving it so that we might make that case to the Board of Supervisors. It's a terrible reality that suicides in children under 18 doubled last year compared to the previous several years in San Joaquin County. And it's just so desperately needed to expand these services. So that's under mental health is one. There's also something called the Neglected Children's Fund that's housed at Human Services Agency. And it helps to fund the extra things for foster children. So sports, drama, extracurriculars, special camps that these kids never get to go to. And we have at least a couple thousand at any point in time children in the foster care system. And this fund allows them to have access to those extracurricular that we know really bolsters mental health. This is really some of our most at-risk population. And that fund is funded by HSA staff doing bake sales and raffles. And we think that as a part of COVID relief, that some of our most vulnerable children should have access to things they need to recover from the impacts of COVID. And so that has made the list under mental health as well. And then the last one under mental health is the Community Grant Fund. And it's the reality that we are aware that so many of these smaller grassroots groups all over the county have really met needs neighbor to neighbor throughout COVID. I know Sikhs of Tracy did a ton of food distribution, and it's really grassroots organizations like that that have the quickest ability to tap someone on the shoulder, to be there for their neighbor, to meet. And what we know is that there's still quite a bit of low-level anxiety and even depression caused by the pandemic. And what we wanted to advocate for in that really mild area is that the board would create a community grant fund where smaller organizations all across the county could apply for a micro grant to be putting on events that help draw their populations back out, reconnect people to each other, connect them to 211 services. We want to use that as an opportunity to say, here's a 211 card. This is where you start for help. Pass out a meal, listen to some music, rent a bounce house. But really, let's start pulling the community back together around these small grassroots groups that have been in the trenches, serving their friends and their neighbors this entire time, but out of their pockets. And this funding is really meant for this. And so we felt like this was one tool we could use to help to address that broader anxiety and depression that we know exists in our constituents all over the county. So that's mental health. And then we have one other area around workforce development. We have a brain drain in San Joaquin County, specifically around earlyhood childhood education and mental health professional. And It's reached a fever pitch to the point that an organization called Health Force Partners estimates that we have at least 200 fewer clinical positions filled in this county than we need. And that's both housed inside county staff, county departments, and in community-based organizations, even in school districts. And what we've discovered is we have the funding to do mental health programming. We don't have the staff. And so it's a really, it's a solid opportunity for the board to use this to help mitigate those impacts of COVID on mental health by ensuring that we can attract and retain qualified professionals to deliver the programs, because right now we can't. Right now, everyone's truly struggling to staff these programs. And so we can't bring the programs that children and youth so desperately need until we attract and retain the staff. And those are really the major areas that we've landed on that will make the biggest long-term impact.
So I don't have the right word to use, but the last 2-3 points that you mentioned, you're working on the mental health, working on the workforce development. I think those are very, very crucial, especially in the Central Valley, because right now we know that every single town, we're starting from Mountain House to all the way to our Lodi, all the towns are developing. A lot of folks are moving in, but the resources are less. You said there's a funding available, but we don't have the staff to cater to accommodate those needs. So I think what you guys are doing, that's incredibly commendable, that all this coordination of facilitating with county supervisors and to make these things available for the county. And talking about more in the workforce development area. So what kind of help, not just only into that, but there's a shortage of staff, there's the mental health professionals, that's the shortage as well. So how a community member or different groups from the community can help your organization or you directly, or to just play their part, to do their due diligence. So how they can get involved.
Right now, we're asking everyone to like and follow us on Facebook and to go to our website, SanJoaquinChildren'sAlliance.org, very easy, and submit your email so that we can communicate with you, because as we continue to pull these proposals all the way through and we take them to the board, we have not made our final presentation yet. Really, the public has to speak up. You'll email your supervisor, you'll like and share things on Facebook for us. All of those things show the supervisors that the community is paying attention, that they approve of this conversation, and that they approve of these monies being put towards the impacts of children and youth. And you should know the Alliance paid for a poll in December for registered voters to know who did the community think was the most negatively impacted by COVID. And 93% said children and youth, no opposition. And then very quickly behind that, in like the 80s, was low-income households and small businesses. And we couldn't agree more. And there's been a significant amount of investment in small businesses, and we want to applaud. My husband owns a small business, very supportive of all that. But we want to make sure that the board understands that the community sees the impact to kids, and they want this money spent on kids.
That's right. I think absolutely that's what we need right now. And like you said, it's just not one person or one organization that can make it happen. Every single person's opinion, word, email, or phone call, or even going up to your elected officials to make your voice heard. That is what our Constitution, our everything, that's what it asks you. You join in these things to make a life better, or a better community for yourself and for the coming generation. Yes. So talking about more short staff, that you're working the workforce development, right? So if you get that money, or like that, those proposals gets approved, there's jobs going to be available, and that's just not only going to help to cater to what are the needs that's in the community, but it's also going to create a more high paying jobs and more people as they're moving in. There will be a more opportunity. Like you said, there's a brain drain happen. So it's all connected with each other. So we need to understand the bigger picture, not just only focus on, there's a grant available and we're trying to do this. But with that, we are working on a bigger, I believe, bigger task here that would help from anybody from not being looking for a job just for the community member to somebody looking for a job, or somebody need a mental help, or somebody needs that sort of accommodation from different professionals. So everybody gonna get served and accommodated. So I think what you're doing and reaching out, like you said, you paid to pull out the registered voters information to get the survey done, and I think that's incredible. There's a lot of work to understand what is happening and what is not happening, to convert that data into a more story that, hey, this is what's happening and we have a backup of this. That's incredible. And I think we all should be doing our part, and definitely I will make sure I will do what I have discussed here, what I have learned, and anything else beyond that, Christina, that you would like to add or share with the audience, or make a request or encourage people.
No, again, I just thank you so much for having me on, and for doing your part to make sure that people know where to go to get information. Having a trusted message bearer is really everything. And so I just deeply appreciate that you guys have created this space. And again, just like and follow us on Facebook, or put your email into our website, and you'll be kept current. And when there's ways you can step up, because it really does matter. When no one pays attention, decisions get made, and then we suffer the consequences. But when we're paying attention, the community really does have a voice that can be heard. So thank you.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we when we started this platform, it was just an open platform. Like, hey, let's just make it informative for everyone. Equally, they have the information, and so anyone or whoever wants to come freely can speak. And that's what all the community is all about. And let's just work together. And I guess this brings us to our end part of our conversation. And I believe we had a really great information shared today for all the community members from in the San Joaquin County and all the different cities. So if you do have any question or you wanted to connect with Christina, she's recommending to go to the San Joaquin Alliance Children website, enter your information. There would be a contact information for as well, so you can connect them directly with them as well. And do like them on the Facebook. To appreciate them. She took her time on a Sunday evening to share all this information. And as she said, she has 4 kids. She is not somebody that's really keeping her busy and everything. So let's just appreciate her by at least giving us some likes on the Facebook page, and kind of give that solidified that we did pay attention and we are listening to, and knowing all these efforts are being done for us and for our neighbors, for our society, for our community. And thank you so much, Christina, once again. And we really appreciate in the future, if there's anything else, let's just connect again and do an informative conversation. And have a wonderful evening, everyone. God bless everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.